Every meal holds echoes of where we've been. The hands that prepared it, the waters that sustained it, the moments that shaped us.
Every journey leaves its mark. The rivers carve their paths, nature follows instinct, and we too find our way, guided by memory and shaped by our experiences.
I feel like being a chef is something that you sort of fall into. I feel like a lot of chefs that I know have never really sought out to become chefs. It's more so has been shoved onto their plate and then they decide to. So it's very much a sink or swim. You either do it and you love it or you get burnt out very quickly because it is a very demanding job. But when you gain that sort of love for food, love for cooking, that love of the process, it's incredibly rewarding. And I never thought I'd become a chef, but until I started doing it, I found that love, found that passion for food. So I decided to pursue it further, and I never thought that I would end up being on TV cooking. I was just a dishwasher, like just a couple years back. It's a little bit surreal looking back, even just like a year ago, 2 years ago, doing what I was doing then, and to see what I'm doing now, working with Chef Christy Olsen over at Eden Restaurant, doing private dinners, doing this TV show. It's very surreal, and it's very easy to get a bit of imposter syndrome. Like I shouldn't be here. Like I was just washing dishes. I think the biggest thing I'd say to my younger self is just be confident in who you know you are.
Welcome back to another episode of Soundbites. I'm Sedona.
And I'm Demi.
And I'm Dallas.
Can you tell us where you're from and a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, of course. So I grew up in BC, out on the Fraser River, and then later in my life I moved back here to Lethbridge, and now I work here as a chef. I've only been cooking for about 3 or 4 years now, so quite young in my career, but I'm still excited to be here.
Amazing.
And where are you at now in your journey?
I'm almost done my apprenticeship, so hopefully I'll have my red seal real quick. I'm working at one of the brown social houses over here just as a day job, and I'm also working part-time over at Eden Restaurant out in Raymond, hosting private dinners. And it allows me to really focus on technique and care and put a lot of passion and effort into the food that I cook there, a lot more so than a regular restaurant environment. And I've also been working at a few other local places here, Steel and Vines, Meat Box, been doing a lot of cutting meat. Worked out in Tabor doing some Tabor table stuff with some of the local farmers, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Sounds like you have a very broad community palette. I love that.
Yeah. I try to dip my hands in as many pots as possible.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we're excited to have you here. We've recruited Dallas to do a little bit of a challenge today. So we've asked him to prepare us a dish that represents a story special to him, and he has 60 minutes to try and do it and impress our guest judges. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Timer starts now.
So, growing up in BC on the Fraser River, smoked salmon has always been a part of my childhood, and it's so delicious, so I had to share it with you today. Unfortunately, in Alberta, and availability's sake, we are going to be using steelhead trout, which is very similar in almost every way, so it's just a little less fishy flavored, which is a lot better if you're not accustomed to eating fish. So for smoked salmon, the first step is to find a nice little fillet, which I have already prepared here, nice and cut. And we are going to start off putting in a little bit of a dry cure. So what a dry cure is a sort of like essentially it's whatever spices, seasonings, anything you want, and a lot of salt. That salt is going to draw out the moisture, and in smoking, we want it to be very dry before it goes in so it can soak up all that smoky flavor. So the rub I have prepared for us today is a mixture of, it's very simple. It's just salt, brown sugar, and a little bit of dried dill. So for about a full side of fish, you're going to be looking for about 1.5 cups of brown sugar and about 1/4 cup of salt, plus anything you want. I just used a good couple pinches of dried dill, and we are just going to be covering that all onto our fish here. You'll notice that I'm using a tray with a wire rack, and that is because we want the moisture to be dripping off. We don't want it to be sitting in its own purge. So we want everything to be nice and covered. Doesn't have to be perfect. And we're going to stick it in the fridge for about 1 to 2 hours. After that, we're going to rinse it off and let it sit in a cool, dry place uncovered for about another hour or so. And that is going to be form what's called a pellicle. So it's going to be a little bit of a film on top, and that is what's going to actually draw in all that smoke, all that flavor. So growing up in BC, I was actually fostered by a Dutch family. My diet consisted of very heavy soul food, a lot of potatoes, a lot of fish, a lot of meat. And every Sunday after church, we'd always have a nice heavy soup and meat. So me and my uncle would always be fishing for salmon, and he would always smoke his. So we are going to be making a little bit of a potato leek puree. So leeks, already been washed, already been cut. We're just going to be cutting these up. This is a very simple, very light, very creamy soup, which I think is going to be perfect for all this cold weather that we're having. So our first step is going to be sweating down our leeks. We're going to start off melting our butter, and then while that's happening, I'm going to start peeling our potatoes. So you can use any kind of potatoes for something like this. I prefer using yellow flesh just because they have a very nice flavor. A lot of people like using russets. I just find that the yellow flesh are a little bit more creamy in the puree, which add a nicer texture, a little bit thicker, a little bit more waxy. So once our butter's fully melted and slightly bubbling a little bit, we are going to be turning down our heat. We only want that to be at about 200 degrees, very low heat. The process itself is very simple. Like any soup, all it is essentially just throwing stuff in a pot. All the extra flavor comes from doing all the extra effort of taking your time, sweating out the leeks. Traditionally, the leeks will be pureed in with the soup. However, I am going to be reserving them and adding them back in after, just to add another level of texture, another level of interest in the soup. So after we reserve that, we are going to be adding shallots and garlic, adding in our chicken stock and our potatoes, and then that is what's going to be pureed. And then you can stop there. However, I always prefer to have a fine mesh strainer and force it through one of those just because it adds that nice velvety texture. I'm going to go in, add our chicken stock. It might look a little funny because it looks kind of like Jell-O, but what they don't tell you is that a good stock, when it's refrigerated, will look kind of like Jell-O because that's all the gelatin that's come out from the bones when you simmer it. So we're just going to let that go. A little bit of salt, and a lot more salt. I have this lovely dark rye bread and a little bit of garlic butter. And it's very simple. We're just going to be toasting it in a pan. In this pan, right beside it, just going to add in a little bit of garlic butter. Let that brown up a little bit. We're just going to add in our bread, and that'll soak up and toast until it's nice and crispy. While that soup is going, we're just going to add in a couple bay leaves and a whole sprig of thyme. Just let that flavor infuse. Before we blend it, we're going to take these out. While everything's cooking, we're just going to take this time and start plucking some dill. Make sure no stems. So our croutons are starting to crisp up. Make sure you give them a nice little turn. So you want these to be completely dried out, because when you put them in the soup, they're going to soak up all that moisture again. We're also going to chop up just some green onion. It just looks pretty. It tastes good. You're going to add it on top of anything. It just works. So our potatoes are looking nice and tender. So now it is time to throw them in the blender. So I'm going to be taking out the thyme that we put in and our 2 little bay leaves. So once those are out, I'm just going to throw it all in a blender here. We're getting all our potatoes. So we're just going to blend this on low for a little bit. I'm just going to gently crank up that speed. So on the lowest possible setting, we're going to take the little top off the blender and just drizzle in a little bit of cream. That'll help thicken it up. And we'll strain. So straining is just going to add that extra level of velvetyness and a very smooth texture. I'm just gently stirring here. I'm not trying to force it through. I'm just letting it come through as it wants to. Add our last little bit in. I'm just going to add it back to the pot just to keep it warm. I'm going to keep it nice and low here. I'm going to add back in our leeks that we did at the start. Those will just hang out and soften up. And as always, we always want to be tasting before we serve. I'm going to put some on a spoon here. So we're going to be going in with a couple pinches more salt, a little bit of grounded nutmeg. Nutmeg's very potent, so we only want a little bit. Nice little stir in again. That's a little pinch of lemon juice. It's going to add a little touch in the end. Bring the soup back up to a simmer, and we're good to plate. We're taking our smoked salmon fillet, and we're going to portion it up into 3 plates here. So you always want to cut against the grain. So this would be with the grain, but you always want to be cutting against it. And fish is very delicate, so nice sharp knife. And we're just going to cut it into a few nice little slivers here. Ideally, you would have the salmon fresh right after it's out of the smoker. However, it's a hot soup. It's going to heat that salmon up when you put it into the bowl anyways. Okay, so our soup is at simmering. We're pulling it off. About 4 ounces. Croutons. Dill. Chives. And we're just going to finish with a little lemon zest, just for aroma. I think the big message or idea from the dish is just to remember where you come from. So like I said, just growing up on the river, I live here now out in Alberta, so I don't really get to do that. It's not fishing and like living on the water isn't part of my life anymore, but it definitely has shaped me, definitely has shaped what I like to eat, and like what I like to do like in my free time. It's just nice to remember where you've come from. So as far as my culture goes, as Indigenous, it's very hard. It's very hard for me to express my culture through the food that I cook, because I don't have my own place yet. So everything is very European traditional in most of the cooking around here, and that's okay. It's still very technical. I'm still learning a lot, but it doesn't really open up a lot for me to express a lot of cultural practices. So the European influence is very heavy in my cooking, I would say, but it's something that I'm trying to unlearn for myself.
Food and music have always brought people together, creating moments of connection and shared experience.
In this episode of Soundbites, we invited a musician and chef to join the table and bring new life to this chef's story. As they take their first bites, they step into the world that inspired this dish.
So, my dish actually today is smoked salmon. I heard one of you is very keen about that. So, I grew up in BC on the Fraser River, and I've been fishing that river since I was like 4 years old with my uncle. Used to net fish with the Stolo people as well. They used to take me on their boat when I was just a little 6-year-old. And the way he would always prepare it is he'd always smoke it. He'd always smoke it nice and dry, so we'd have to mix with mayo, throw on some bread. I did it a little bit different. I smoked it with some nice brown sugar, salt and dill, and did that all yesterday. So it's been kind of curing for a little bit, and that is inside a potato leek soup on dark rye bread. And yeah, a little bit of leek, a little bit of dill, lemon, parm, all the good stuff.
Great.
Yeah,
This sounds amazing.
Yeah,
I
I'm
hope
very,
so.
very good.
I am a huge salmon fan. My dad is from Kitimat, BC. I'm of the Haisla Nation, and I grew up eating salmon as well. A lot of smoked salmon too. We would always get stuff sent out to us, like it's like jerky almost when the way they'd send it to us in packages. But we'd also have the pickled, the jarred salmon. I have some at home right now from Kitimat right now. So literally huge salmon fan. This sounds amazing. Thanks, Dallas. Looking forward.
The way they do it out there is definitely nice and dry because it's fresh from the river. But
Yeah.
fair warning, I did say salmon. Unfortunately, in Alberta, due to availability, it is steelhead trout instead, which is very similar to the sockeye salmon in almost every way. It's just a little bit less fishy in terms of taste. But other than that, the recipe's 1-to-1.
Great.
Awesome.
Great story. I love the story behind the dish. I'm looking forward to the big reveal now. Can I go
Awesome.
ahead
I
and
hope
take
you
it off?
enjoy. Yeah,
Here we
please do.
go.
Please do before it gets cold.
Whoa!
Ooh.
Oh, wow. That does look,
That
it
looks amazing.
kind of looks like salmon too. I didn't realize that the trout looked so like pink like that.
Yeah, no, they're very similar. The trout and the salmon. The trout and the salmon actually they're on the same was it the mating route? Same river, same everything, same diet.
Can I have this whole bowl to
Yeah,
myself?
please do.
This is
That's
amazing.
amazing. That is very good. The fish is perfect. It's definitely not too dry.
I can taste the whole story you were just talking about, catching the fish out
Mhm.
with your uncle, a little kid. And but now it's like evolved, elevated, brought up to this really high level. And are these just breadcrumbs here?
That is a dark rye, toasted up in garlic butter.
Whoa.
Mhm.
Yeah, there is a huge complexity of flavor going on here. And the creaminess really does a lot for it. Like he said, I don't see this fish being dry at all. You know, this is really, really good. I only ever have like smoked salmon like on its own, or
Yep.
you know, like a little treat kind of thing where it's like the maple salmon that you get at like Safeway and stuff like that. Not usually like incorporating it into a soup and stuff like that. This is so unique, but makes so much sense too.
Said it's usually just like jerky, and you just tear off a piece and eat it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's nice to incorporate it into something because it just has such a depth of flavor.
Mm. And you can smell the fishiness in like the perfect way too. This is just
Yep.
like treated really well. You've really respected the meat, respected every ingredient, and like did the best job of bringing all that flavor out into the surface. Like,
Very, very well done.
and
The plating itself was beautiful. It looked so good.
I was just about to say that the big reveal when I
Yeah.
took off, it was
Yeah.
breathtaking to finally see this. This is like so much better than anything I could have expected. I got here with no idea
Mhm.
what we're gonna have and what we're in for. And I was just telling him we got the best job in the house,
Yeah.
and this really, really confirms it. You
100%.
nailed it. Like this is like 10 out of 10
Delicious.
for me. Like looks delicious, smells super good and earthy.
Mhm.
Good texture behind the fish and the rye. You can really even get the garlic bread out of there. It's like several dishes in one. That's what it feels like. It just
Yeah.
happens to be in the form of a soup.
Yeah, and I hope they all go together as well.
It
Yeah.
does. It does. Yeah, very much.
Yeah, you're opening my eyes on some flavor here.
Yeah, and like I was saying during filming, with soup, it's easy to just throw everything into a pot and it'll be the same soup, but it's the extra steps that you add into it. So the leeks are actually sautéed before anything else and then reserved and put in after, leaving all that nice and like that nice fond before we go in with shallots and garlic and toasting those out with the potatoes before adding the chicken stock. Bring that all up to a simmer, a little bay leaf, a little thyme. And then when that gets blended out, that's when you drizzle in your cream to just help thicken it up. There's some Parmesan rind as well to add a little bit of extra fattiness,
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
extra richness.
Wow.
And then the big step that people usually skip at home is you mash it through a sieve, just to really have that velvety texture instead of those weird lumps as you would a normal puree soup.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's got one big bite of fish with the breadcrumb too. It's just like, that was it.
Yes.
Good. And the textures are all so amazing. That's why the leeks, so traditionally the leeks would be pureed in. I prefer to add them in after, just for like that extra level of like texture, that level of interest.
The presentation, the story, everything combined. This is more than just soup, more than just fish. This is an experience.
Yes.
So thank you, Dallas. Really appreciate this.
Thank you so much.
Every Sunday lunch, always hot soup and fish.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is perfect for a Sunday right now. I'm
It is
actually
awesome. Yeah.
so
it was
I came
great.
here so tired and hungry, and this just was like fulfilled my whole soul.
Here's what to say. It's soul food. It's
Exactly.
hot soup and potatoes.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
To listen to the world around us is to understand our place within it.
What stories are carried in your own journey? And what lessons might the land be teaching you?
Until next time, keep listening, keep tasting, keep finding your sound.